My name is Emma Carter. I'm 31 years old. I never imagined that the happiest day of my life would also become the day my husband destroyed our family. If you're listening to my story, don't judge me too quickly, because if someone had told me that the man I loved for 8 years would divorce me the moment he learned I was pregnant, then I would have laughed. I trusted him with everything, and that almost ruined my life. It all started on a rainy Tuesday morning in October. I still remember the exact date, October 14th. The pregnancy test showed 2 pink lines. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I cried for almost 10 minutes, not because I was scared, but because I thought our biggest dream had finally come true. I had no idea that within the next 24 hours, I would lose my husband, my home, and almost my hope. But what he didn't know was that one secret was waiting to destroy everything he believed. And years later, and when that secret finally came out, he collapsed in front of everyone. After I saw those 2 pink lines, I couldn't stop smiling. I spent the entire day planning how I would tell Daniel. I wanted it to be perfect. I bought his favorite dinner. I decorated the living room with small candles, and I placed the ultrasound picture inside a gift box. I kept imagining his reaction. I thought he would pick me up in his arms. I thought he would say, "Emma, we're finally going to be parents." But sometimes, the moment you expect to bring the most happiness becomes the moment that breaks you forever. That evening, Daniel came home later than usual. The moment he walked through the door, I noticed something was different. He wasn't looking at me the way he used to. His smile was gone. His eyes looked distant. "Daniel, I have something amazing to tell you." He placed his keys on the table. "Can it wait?" I felt something strange in his voice. "No, I think this is the best news of our lives." I handed him the gift box. He opened it slowly. At first, he didn't understand what he was seeing. Then his eyes stopped on the ultrasound picture. The room became completely silent. I waited for happiness. I waited for tears. I waited for him to hug me. But instead, he looked at me and asked, "Are you sure this is mine?" Those 5 words changed everything. I felt like the ground disappeared beneath my feet. "Daniel, what are you saying?" He walked away from the table. "I've been thinking about this marriage for a long time." My heart started beating faster. "Well, what does that mean?" He took a deep breath. "It means I don't want this anymore." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Not after 8 years together, not after everything we had built. "You're leaving me?" He looked down. "I think we should end this." Then he said the words I will never forget. "The timing is suspicious, Emma. You can't just announce a pregnancy and expect me to stay." I stared at him. The man I loved was looking at me like I was a stranger, but what I didn't know at that moment was that Daniel wasn't just hiding his feelings, he was hiding a secret of his own. And when I discovered the truth years later, I finally understood why he was so desperate to leave that night. That night, I packed a small bag and left with nothing but my phone and the ultrasound picture. I had nowhere to go, so I called my sister Grace. She opened her door without asking a single question. She just held me while I cried. For 3 days, I didn't eat properly. For 3 days, I kept replaying his words in my head. "Are you sure this is mine?" I kept asking myself, how could he say that? We had been faithful. We had been happy. Or so I thought. The divorce papers arrived 2 weeks later. Daniel didn't even come to explain himself. He sent his lawyer instead. No calls, no messages, no goodbye. Just a signature line waiting for my name. I remember staring at that paper for almost an hour. My hand wouldn't move. But then I felt something inside me shift. A small kick, the first time I felt my son move, and in that moment I made a decision. I wasn't just signing a divorce, I was choosing to protect this child no matter what it cost me. I signed the papers and I never looked back. The next 7 years were the hardest of my life. I worked 2 jobs. I moved into a tiny apartment with peeling walls and a broken heater. Some nights, I skipped dinner so my son could eat properly. I named him Noah. He had my eyes. But Daniel's smile, every time Noah smiled at me, it felt like a small piece of the man I once loved and lost. People asked me why I never told Daniel the truth, why I never fought to make him stay. But they didn't understand. Daniel had already made his choice the night he asked me that question. Are you sure this is mine? That question told me everything I needed to know about the man I married. So I built a new life, just me and Noah. I taught him to read at 4. I taught him to ride a bike at 6. I taught him that even without a father, he was never unwanted, but I never told him the whole truth about Daniel. I only said, your father made a mistake, sweetheart. That's all you need to know for now. I thought that chapter of my life was closed forever. I thought I would never see Daniel again. I was wrong, because 7 years later, on an ordinary afternoon, fate brought us face to face, and what happened that day would finally reveal the secret Daniel had been hiding since the very beginning. The secret that made him say those 5 words. The secret that destroyed our marriage. And the secret that would soon bring him to his knees. 7 years passed, like a blur of long shifts, school runs, and quiet nights where I told myself I was enough for both a mother and a father. Noah was 7 now, curious, kind, and full of questions I couldn't always answer. That afternoon, I had taken him to the city park near my office for ice cream, a small treat after his school recital. I wasn't thinking about Daniel that day. I hadn't thought about him in months. But then across the park, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in 7 years. Emma. I turned around. And there he was, older, a few gray hairs at his temples, but the same eyes that once told me he loved me, and then told me he didn't want me. Daniel. His eyes moved past me, to Noah. He froze. Not the way people freeze when they're surprised, the way people freeze when the ground shifts beneath them. Because Noah wasn't just any 7-year-old boy standing there with a melting ice cream cone. He had Daniel's exact smile, Daniel's exact jawline, and a small birthmark behind his left ear, the same one Daniel had. Emma, is he... I didn't answer right away. I let him sit in that silence, the same silence he once made me sit in 7 years ago. His name is Noah. I finally said, he's 7. Daniel did the math in his head. I watched it happen on his face. October, 7 years ago, 9 months later. That's not possible, he whispered. I was told... He stopped himself. You were told what, Daniel? His hands were shaking now. My mother, she showed me photos, messages. She said you were seeing someone from your office. She said the pregnancy wasn't mine. I felt something inside me crack open after 7 years of silence. And you believed her? Over me, over 8 years together? He didn't answer. He didn't need to, because at that moment, Noah tugged on my sleeve and asked the question I had been dreading for years. Mama, is this my dad? The park went silent. Daniel looked at his son for the first time in his life, and then right there, in front of strangers, children, and the woman he once called his wife. Daniel's legs gave out beneath him. He collapsed onto the grass, his hands covering his face, 7 years of guilt crashing down on him all at once. I didn't run to him. I didn't kneel beside him. I stood there, holding Noah's hand a little tighter, and I let Daniel feel every second of that pain alone. Because for 7 years, I had felt it alone too. Emma, please, he said, still on his knees. I need to explain. I need you to understand what happened. Not here, I said quietly, glancing at Noah, who was watching his father cry without fully understanding why. Not in front of him, not like this. 2 days later, Daniel asked to meet me. Alone. He told me everything. His mother, Margaret, had never approved of me. She thought I wasn't suitable for her son, that I came from a family with nothing, while Daniel was set to inherit the family business. Weeks before I found out I was pregnant, she had hired someone to follow me, to take photos of me having lunch with my old university friend Mark, a man I had known since childhood. She edited messages, she fabricated a story, and the night I told Daniel I was pregnant, she had already spent a week poisoning his mind, showing him proof that the timing didn't add up. He believed her. He chose his mother's lies over 8 years of trust. I was a coward, Daniel admitted, his voice breaking. I should have asked you directly. I should have fought for us instead of running. I've hated myself every single day since. You didn't just hurt me, Daniel, I told him. You erased yourself from your son's entire life. 7 birthdays, 7 Christmases. Every skinned knee, every school project. Every night, he asked why he didn't have a dad like the other kids. You weren't there for any of it. He had no answer. Because there wasn't one. I won't pretend the months after that were simple. Daniel begged for a chance to know Noah, and after long conversations, after watching him show up consistently, after seeing genuine remorse instead of empty apologies, I allowed him back into Noah's life. Slowly, carefully, on my terms, not as my husband, as a father, learning to earn something he had thrown away. His mother, Margaret, never apologized. She never even admitted what she'd done until Daniel confronted her with the evidence he'd since uncovered. Daniel cut contact with her for over a year afterward. As for me, I didn't go back to him. Too much had been broken. Too many years I'd spent surviving alone couldn't simply be undone by one apology in a park, but I did find peace. I built a life on my own strength. I raised a son who knows his worth doesn't depend on who stayed or who left. And I learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you the most are the ones who test your strength the hardest. Today, Noah is thriving. He has a relationship with his father, imperfect but real. And he has a mother who never once let him believe he was anything less than wanted. If you're listening to this story and someone has ever made you doubt your worth, remember this: the truth always finds its way to the surface. And when it does, it doesn't just reveal the liar. It reveals exactly who was strong enough to survive the lie.